synonymous with bringing things together. So just like we source all wonderful ingredients from all around the world to come right here into our facility to make great beer, here we live in Miami, right? We have people from different backgrounds, right? We have beer, we have food, we even have a cigar lounge, and we have wine, sangria, we have games. All those experiences come together to create a wonderful time and a great experience.
Oh.
Hops is one, correct?
You said barley over here.
Barley, right? Yeah, or malt or cereal grain, right? Where you source your sugar from. Because any type of alcohol you drink comes from some type of sugar, correct? Right? Like what does wine come from?
Grapes.
Grapes, right? What about rum?
Sugar cane.
Sugar cane, exactly, yeah. So beer comes from any type of cereal grain, barley, wheat, oats, rye, even rice sometimes, right? That's where you source your sugar from. Right? We have hops. Anybody know the third ingredient?
Water?
Water, yep. How about that fourth?
Dude, by the way, no one gets this right.
Alcohol.
This is the
Comes
most
from
scientific,
alcohol.
right? It's actually, what'd you say? Boom, winner right here.
There you go.
Free beer for life now.
Woohoo!
So yeah, it's yeast. All right, so those are your four main ingredients. So the first ingredient that you guys named are flavor and aroma in beer. So if you drink like an IPA, for all you IPA lovers, if you dive your nose into it, it's very tantalizing because of the different, it's a hoppy kind of beer, right? So hops provides flavor and aroma, right? And they grow all around the world. So like let's say you have a Spanish Pinot Noir and a Napa Valley Pinot Noir, right? Red wine. Are those going to taste the same?
No. Climate.
Exactly. Same idea that goes into hops. We have a large variety of different types of hops. Like this one's called Comet hops, right? We have Amarillo hops, right? And we have different variety of hops over here, right? And depending on what type of hop it is, it can either provide a more citrus flavor and aroma, or a floral, or even earthy, or spicy tones. And I don't mean like Tabasco or Cristal spicy. I mean like cumin, cardamom, crushed black pepper, things of that nature, right? So, and they come in these pelletized forms. So a hop almost looks like a small artichoke growing off the plant, right? What they do is they grind it up, the hop, and they see pelletized forms, kind of looks like rabbit food, right? Yeah. But if you were to open this up and thaw it out, it has great aroma, and some of the beers that we have developed this wonderful taste from the different types of hops that we use.
Oh, careful. All right.
Smells good, right? Right?
Ooh, that smells good in here.
All right, guys, that's how beer's made. Let's go back out now.
All right.
Right, so immediately, like if anybody is, like I know my sister used to own like a hamster growing up, right? It almost smells like an animal cage, right? Or some type of food, but it smells great, right? This is where we keep all of our grains. All right, this is where we source our sugar from. So the main idea in this room is we take the different types of grains and we want to isolate those sugars and pull them out of the grains, right? So you have different types of grains, like I said. You have Pils malt. I'm going to actually show you some grain over here. Let me open one of these buckets up for you. All right. Let's see what we got in here. All right, so here's a type of amber grain, okay? You can actually open it, you can actually eat it if you like, if you feel comfortable. If not, I understand.
I don't know.
But I'm you know, I could take sunflower seeds and eat the whole bag kind of thing. Would you like some?
You guys signed the waiver.
Yeah. No, we didn't even sign it yet?
I didn't have enough hands to pass.
You want
Thank
a little
you.
video? Grains. Anybody want some more? Joe? All right. So you have different types of grains. Inside these grains live sugars. And what we want to do is we want to pull those sugars out of the grain. And like I said, you have different types of grain. We have more amber malt up here. This one's called, I cannot pronounce that. But you can even use things such as oat, wheat, rye, barley, right? Different types of things. And they all provide their different types of properties that they bring to the beer, whether it's color, texture, and flavor. Okay? So what we do is we take the grain and we put it into this orange machine here. And what it does is it cracks it and crushes it. Not into powder form, but almost like, you know, we want to crush it up. What happens is all that crushed grain goes through this pipe into this big white tank, okay? And then you're going to see a pipe that kind of goes under through a wall. What it does is it takes all that crushed grain, and that grain is being mixed with that hot water, and what's happening is all the sugars are coming out, all right? All the sugars are coming out. We're isolating those sugars. After an hour, we then filter out that grain, right? Instead of throwing out the grain, we actually donate it to a farmer in the Redlands, and he uses it as animal feed. Right?
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. What's that?
So these animals are drunk all
No, well, actually, so there's no alcohol yet.
Okay.
So no, they don't get drunk off that. They just enjoy it. Yeah. So after 1 hour, now we're left, after we filter out the grain, we're left with with this sticky, thick sugar water, which is called wort, W-O-R-T. I did not name it, don't get mad at me. I know it's a terrible name. I wish they would have called it something like Sparkles, I don't know, who knows, right? But it's called wort, all right? So now we transfer that wort into step 3 over here, this tank here. So follow me this way. And now it goes from our mash tun, so step 2 is mashing, into step 3, which is called boiling, into our boiling tank. So we take that wort, and now we start boiling it. We increase the temperature. Now it starts bubbling, right? And now for an hour and a half or 90 minutes, we now throw in all the hops that we want to use, right? So it could be one type of hop, or if we have like an IPA or a seasonal IPA coming out, we use a variation of different types of hops. Hey, we want to make an IPA that has a nice balance between citrus, floral, and bitter notes, right? Okay, let's use Comet, Strata, and this type of hop, right? And that's where the brewers come in, right? We have a 5-man team back here that really pour their heart and soul into making our delicious beer, right? So we add the hops, right? And what's happening while it's boiling is we're extracting what I call that, all that hoppy goodness that goes into the wort, right? After 90 minutes, we filter out the hops. Now we're left with that wort, that sticky, thick, brown sugar water, right? With all that hoppy goodness. Now we have the aromas, the flavors that we want. Still, no alcohol, so it's still not fun yet, right? So now from step 3, what we do is we take it into the boiling tank, and we take it into these bad boys here called fermenting vessels, titled F glasses, right? Your beach, your barbecue, your tailgate beers, your easy drinking, your Bud Lights, your Coronas, your Amstel Lights, your Stellas. All lagers, usually translucent, golden yellow. You're actually drinking a lager right now. It's our Pilsner, right? Okay. And then you have ales, a little more taste bud tantalizing, a little bit higher ABV, right? A little more hop forward. You have your IPAs, your pale ales, your blonde ales, your stouts, your porters, your darker beers, right? All right, so those are your 2 main styles. Does anybody know what style of beer came first? Chicken. Chicken? Yeah. So it was actually ales, right? Lagers were actually created by mistake. When the Germans were moving their barrels of beer, they store them in ice caves, because lager actually means to store. So they store them in these ice caves during winter. They would come back after winter and be like, hey, my beer is a lot more crisp, light, refreshing. Boom, lagers. And it wasn't until about the Industrial Revolution in the 1700s where the machinery was created to mass produce lagers. Anyways, fun fact.
Okay.
I think in the first ones back in England, they didn't use the ales. They didn't use hops.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah. So it'd be generally like an easy drinking beer.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But they called it an ale.
Right. Yeah. There's and don't let me confuse you. There are some ales out there that might be lighter than a lager. Right. Like we have Loca, which is our blonde ale, very 4.2%, 94 calories, 2.8 grams of carbs, one of our lightest beers, but it is still considered an ale. All right. So now, when we take all that wort and we put it into the fermenting vessels, we let it sit here for about 2 to 3 weeks, and we let the yeast eat up all the sugar. The yeast eats the sugar and spits out alcohol and CO2, right? So we want the alcohol, but we don't want the CO2 staying inside these tanks. So you're going to notice these red buckets here, right? When the yeast is first dropped and it's very active at the beginning, this bucket is to the top bubbling, right? And what's happening is all the CO2 is escaping from this pipe and being trapped in this bucket of water here. So we don't want it traveling back in and causing any contamination or spoiling the beer, right? That'd be a lot of money that we lose too, right? All right. So these are generally later in the fermenting process right now because there's there's not much action going on, right? So 2 to 3 weeks, all right? Our turnaround time from beer from start to finish is anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks. Those first 3 steps I took you through, from malting, mashing to boiling, all take 1 day.
Okay.
This is where it sits for 2 to 3 weeks now. And we let the yeast work its magic, create that alcohol, all right? So that's step 4, fermentation. Now your last step of the process is over here. Follow me this way. So after the yeast eat up all the sugar for about 2 to 3 weeks, we throw it into these tanks here, these BBT. These are called bright tanks. And what this tank does is we allow the beer to sit for a few days, let the beer become the beer we want, but we also want to give it that bubble, that lively carbonation that we want in beer, right? Because beer has what's called head on it, right? That foam. Head is good on beer, right? Because it traps the proteins, the flavors, the aromas in the beer. So when you go in for that first sip, it is nothing but a wonderful experience, right? So this is where we artificially pump in CO2 to give it that lively carbonation that we want.
And we're taking it out of the beer.
Right? And and we transfer all the beer in these red hoses here, you can notice. Right? So after here, it sits for about 3 to 4 days. Now we package it, we can can it, we can bottle it, we can put it into kegs, right? Depending on how we want to package it. And the beers, now we go drink. right?
All
And
right.
now there's one last thing I really want to show you. It's very something special that not many breweries have, but we do. So follow me this way. Because not only do we have our 5 core beers that we make a lot of, but we also, like I said, like to keep the community engaged by creating seasonal beers, right? Seasonal lagers, seasonal ales, and things of that nature, which we won't produce that much of, like we do Playita or Freedom Tower. You know, it's a one-off, so we'll create maybe a 10 barrel or a 7 barrel batch, right? So follow me this way. Shower, we have a shower ready for you guys. Right. Yeah.
Does beer come out of it?
Anybody want to cool off? What?